everyone. Welcome so much today to the Boardroom Brain podcast. I cannot wait for you to hear our incredible guests that we have joining us today. Let me introduce you to Mark H. Goldberg. He serves as the Director of Global Health and Wellbeing at Latham and Watkins, one of the world's global elite law firms, overseeing strategy and implementation across the US, Europe, the Middle East, and Asia for Live Well Latham, the firm's global wellness program. Mr. Goldberg has spent over 21 years in the multinational legal sector, starting his career as a Latham attorney focusing on commercial litigation and antitrust matters, and later transitioning into a full-time management role, running the firm's internal communications function. In 2009, he was part of a core group that set out to build Latham's first global wellness initiative, which quickly evolved into its comprehensive health and well-being program. In 2013, Mr. Goldberg assumed full-time management of Live Well Latham, expanding and focusing the program on resilience and mental health, diabetes prevention, and musculoskeletal issues, among other areas. A graduate of Cornell University and NYU Law School, Mr. Goldberg has been awarded numerous distinctions related to internal communications, employee relations, and health and wellness programming. He began his career as a high school teacher in Japan, and in his free time, he works on projects as a first-time playwright and novelist. Mark, it's so good to have you on the show today. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Lauren. And if there's any publishers in the audience, I want to stress that last part about the novelist part.
Yeah, we'll have to talk more about that. I just signed on with the literary agent myself, and it is a whole process. So I'm excited to see your works get published someday. Maybe they already are.
Not yet, but maybe someday you'll have me back to talk about my new book.
I can't wait. I can't wait. Awesome. Well, we have so much to talk about today. You've been a key part of developing the Live Well Latham program. Tell us about the impetus of the program and its areas of focus.
Sure. Well, as you mentioned in your intro, we started conceiving of this program quite a while ago. I mean, I think it was as far back as 2009 or so. And, all along, it's really been about engagement, about engaging people in their health, providing best-in-class resources and opportunities to do that, to get involved in their health. Back in 2009, you mentioned in the intro, I was in an internal communications role at the firm. So actually our benefits and well-being department at the time came to me to ask for some help in drafting a white paper to go to our executive committee to propose a well-being program and kind of set out all the arguments for it and all the reasons why we should be getting involved in people's health. And back in 2009, this wasn't kind of the topic du jour. It wasn't. Most companies weren't focused on this. So we were a little hesitant at first. Are people going to want us involved in their health? But actually, it was an easy sell both to firm management and to folks at the firm. And in fact, if there's been really one significant key to our success, it's that our leadership has just right from the beginning recognized that this was the right thing to do. To focus on well-being, anything that we can do to support our people. So, we got the support of our leadership. We started kind of a little slow in, doing some well-being related projects, some health related, tips on our intranet, things like that. And folks really took to it. Folks really seemed to appreciate it and respond well to it. And, we use that as an opportunity to really build our platform. I think we officially launched our Live Well Latham global well-being program. I think, in the US, maybe it was 2010, and externally in Europe, Middle East, and Asia, 2011, maybe 2011, 2012. I might be a year off there, but, it's been around for well over a decade. And it's been fun to really see it evolve over time.
Yeah, and I've seen that too. I mean, I just heard you speak at a panel with the IWELL conference, and that's the Institute for Wellbeing in the Law, for people who are listening in and wondering, what does that acronym mean? And Latham has really been such a leader in this, not only in the legal industry, but I see it transitioning across all industries where, just as we're seeing companies really integrate diversity, equity, inclusion work, they're also integrating mental health, wellness, physical wellness. We're looking at the whole person, right? And not just their work as an employee.
Right.
I'm curious how you've seen the program evolve over time.
Yeah, when we first started out, and again, back in 2009, 2010, 2011, we probably had more of a focus around things like nutrition and fitness. We actually launched our firm-wide physical activity competition. We call it the Spring Challenge.
Yes.
We're now in our 13th year, so it's been a while, and we give out free Fitbits to everyone, and the offices compete against each other to see who can generate the most physical activity. And it's a fun competition. We've got long ago we bronzed one of our associate sneakers, and we made this fun trophy, the bronze sneaker.
Oh, I love that.
But this literally somebody's old running shoes, offices like vie for and compete for. And for our 10th anniversary a couple of years ago, we actually created a new bronze sneaker. We had a contest to see whose sneaker should we bronze this time. And it was a secretary in our Chicago office who wrote to us that the Spring Challenge was the first time she ever started running. And now she's done like umpteen marathons. And we said, well, great, you deserve a new pair of sneakers. Give us your old ones, we'll buy you a new one. And so our new bronze sneaker, now a couple of years old, is our second one.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. But again, I think when we first started in this space, it was a lot about movement, a lot about nutrition, a lot on ergonomics.
Yeah.
We're lawyers and people who support lawyers, so it's a very kind of desk-based population. So we want to make sure that ergonomically people were healthy and safe. And then I think over time, it's really the program has evolved to add on evidence-based programming in a number of other areas. And currently our focus is very heavily on mental health, on resilience, on medical resources, as well as ergonomics and the rest, financial well-being, cancer care, diabetes prevention, any number of areas.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm really proud that it has over time evolved into this truly comprehensive platform.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's also allowed us to be very nimble in terms of responding to what's come up.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I think also our approach is we work with top experts around the world, whether they're doctors or medical institutions or psychologists, whatever. And we kind of have a handful that we tend to go back to over and over and develop these deep relationships, so that not only can we create resources that are very customized, but also they really get to know us, get to know the firm, get to know lawyers, which I say this as a lawyer, we're a very unique bunch. And it's nice working with people who really understand the context and the environment and the people. And again, I think that allows us to be nimble and to continue to create programs. And we're still on this journey, right? I like to think we get a little bit better every day.
I think you are. As a clinical psychologist myself, from watching, my husband and I have been together almost 13 years now. And from dating in undergrad, watching him go all the way through law school, starting working at a firm.
That's a journey, right?
It's a journey. And so it's definitely a passion point of mine to help attorneys in the legal community and the legal community in general, because, it's a challenging profession sometimes, right? You all do incredible work, but it's also high stress. And so the fact that Latham is openly declaring we want to give these resources for people, we care about this, that says a lot, especially, from the top, right? I think that really sends a very powerful message. And I'm curious about this. You've been in the well-being space for a long time, Latham has. But I'm noticing more and more, people in the legal profession, they're focusing on this as well. I'm curious what you think has changed in that regard.
Yeah, good question. I mean, I think there was kind of a watershed moment, a number of years ago around mental health in the legal profession. And, I'll tell you, when we first started, I said, we focused a lot more on, physical activity and ergonomics and things like that. Back then, people didn't want to talk about mental health in the workplace, right? Especially lawyers, right? Everybody was super sensitive to it. I'm okay. Everything's fine. And we had to kind of sneak it in a little bit. We did resilience programming and mindfulness, the stuff that was like mental health, but it was a little bit around the edges. And I think wasn't, folks were more open to that than things that were kind of hardcore mental health. But, around 2016, 2017, two big things happened that impacted the legal industry. One, there was a study done, it was in conjunction with the ABA and Hazelton Betty Ford Foundation. That was the first of its kind study on lawyers and mental health and substance abuse. And it was really a landmark study that, gave the first national data just on lawyers and behavioral health issues. And then there was a report published, the following year or maybe a year and a half later by the National Task Force on Lawyer Wellbeing, which had stemmed from this ABA group. So when, the study was done and the report came out, I think it really gave a lot of people the opportunity to just pause and say, wow, these numbers, this data that show that lawyers are way more at risk for mental health issues and substance misuse and all of that was really kind of a wake-up call to the industry. Yeah. I think people had kind of known for a while that lawyers, seemed more predisposed for all of this, but to have, this seminal study with hard data from Hazelton Betty Ford was really one of those watershed moments for the industry. Yeah. And, I think the other thing that happened, which was probably as, if not even more significant, was there was an article in the summer of 2017 in the New York Times. I think it was called The Lawyer, the Addict. And it was about a partner at, one of the big, major law firms. I think it was like an intellectual property attorney who overdosed. And, it was a feature article in the Times that really looked at the story behind it and the mental health issues that he had been struggling with for years and kind of the signs that, had been there. And his ex-wife and, his family were very involved in the article and, really took a hard look at a very stark example of one person's journey. And I think, that combined with the Hazelton Betty Ford study was like a 1-2 whammy. And, that article got passed around the legal industry like hot fire. I don't know if you and your husband saw it at the time or.
Well, yeah, well, and maybe it's a different article too, but I'm thinking about, the situation that happened here in LA with the attorney who took his life in the parking lot of his firm office.
Yeah,
and
that was another one. Yeah.
His wife posted that article, Big Law Killed My Husband. I believe that was the title of the article.
That was another one. Yeah, it was soon after. Yeah.
Yeah, and as a spouse, I was like, oh man, that was a wake-up call for me too of, okay, all hands on deck. We got to do something about this. And even the fact that you talk about it, I think is so paramount, right? Because even something like suicide overdose, I think that's something that so many people shy away from talking about. And yet it's a real part of our society, right? And when we turn away from these conversations, that's how the stigma continues to manifest. So the fact that you're talking about these things openly, that's how we're going to actually break through the stigma and actually help the legal community get help. So that means a lot to speak to that.
No, absolutely. And I think what those two articles, along with the study and the National Task Force did, it gave people almost this permission to talk about it. And, I had mentioned that before then, we had done some stuff on mental health, more around resilience and mindfulness. And, as a way to kind of tiptoe around the things that people weren't quite ready for. And then it was almost overnight, people were ready to talk about this. And, I think we were fortunate that we had been in this space a while and were able to kind of very quickly pivot and, bring a lot of resources to bear. And, folks who, we were trying to get their attention on this, just, lawyers in the industry were suddenly very attuned to it. And it allowed us to go very deep on mental health issues and resources and all of that. And we've really just kind of ran with it from there.
Yeah, I see that. Absolutely. And, let's talk about the Live Well Center too, because I think that takes it beyond just psychoeducation, just talking about you're actually giving people tangible resources. And, I know the one launched in LA in 2019. You've since launched another one in New York. I'm curious how people have responded to it, how they're using services.
Yeah, so the Live Well Center is our name for our on-site clinics. And we worked to open our first one in late 2019 in our Los Angeles office. It's run by Johns Hopkins, and it really is almost a full service clinic, right? We've got a full-time nurse practitioner. We've got 2 part-time physical therapists. We've got 2 part-time mental health counselors. We opened one in our new New York office last year. And, both in LA and New York, they've really, really taken off. I think folks appreciate, that it's there as a resource, not only for their physical well-being, but their mental well-being. And like I said before, our program is all about engagement, right? It's about giving people resources and opportunities to engage in their health. So, the fact that they can go and make an appointment and get, blood taken or talk about chronic diseases or get physical therapy. I can't tell you how many people have said, oh, you mean that physical therapy prescription that's been on my desk for like 4 weeks that I haven't had a chance to even think about? I could just go downstairs and have someone work on my foot or my back or my neck or whatever it is. Was amazing. And, our well-being counselors, our mental health counselors, it's also an opportunity for them to be more accessible, I think, for folks who are, more hesitant about getting involved in this. It's a chance for them to really become part of the Latham community, right? Whether they're giving presentations or whether they're popping in for 5 minutes to a department meeting or a monthly secretary's lunch or something to introduce themselves, to become a known name and face and a little less scary, I think has been a great way for people to engage. And I'll tell you, we have a program that we call Care Connect. And it's our global, 24/7 coaching and counseling program. And, it's fantastic. And, you can actually reach Care Connect from Latham speed dial on any Latham phone anywhere in the world. It's like #345. And our well-being counselors are actually through Care Connect. So, they've got the whole power of that behind them. But what we found is that, as great as Care Connect is, there are still people who, it's intimidating. You don't know who's on the other end of the phone, thinking about counseling or coaching. If you've never done it before, it's a little scary, right? But being able to have people who are kind of dedicated to offices or regions, and now even for offices that don't have clinics, we've started this model of direct Care Connect support, where maybe we have someone who, even if there's not a clinic, they come into the office once or twice a week, or do things virtually. We've got that in Asia. We just launched it in the UK. We're working on it in Germany. And I think connecting a name and face, right? Instead of just like call a counselor, it's like, oh, well, here's Simon, here's Janice, right? Here's Rebecca. Wow, she doesn't look so scary. Like, I can talk to her. I mean, we've seen a lot of success with that. And I think a lot more people are more comfortable using the resources.
I think that is so great that you're doing that you're really humanizing who therapists are. That's something I'm really passionate about as a provider, is showing, yes, we're real human beings, what happens behind the therapy door. And I think what you're really doing there, you're helping decrease the stigma in that way, right? It's interesting. The research says that interpersonal stigma is going down, right? More people are willing to say, yes, I'm all for, my coworker, my friend, my family member getting therapy or getting treatment. But there's still that intrapersonal stigma, right? Of like, but I'm good. I don't know.
Right, it's not for me. It's great for everyone else, but
right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And it's funny because half of my job is, building the programs and overseeing them and running them. But the other half, honestly, is selling them, right? Is just talking about them and destigmatizing and saying, well, let me tell you about my experience when I called Care Connect. The first time I called, this is what happened. Second time I called, this is what happened. And, even just how we position things makes a difference. Like, I'll give you an example. We, last fall for World Mental Health Day, we offered a series of 20-minute sessions with well-being counselors, right? All of our well-being counselors, like from the Live Well centers, from our Care Connect dedicated support. So folks, it was about eight different counselors who had worked with Latham, right? So they know our people, they know the context. And we said, you know what? Your car needs a tune-up every now and then. Your piano needs a tune-up. Your bike needs a tune-up. Your body and your mind need a tune-up. And your body, we encourage you to go get your annual physical. But for your mind, give your mind a tune-up, right? Nothing has to be wrong, just a tune-up. So we pitched these, 20-minute mental health tune-ups. We announced it at World Mental Health Day. And I'll tell you, we had a whole schedule that sold out in the first 4 hours. Yeah, I mean, and it was a great problem to have. I was on the phone, I'm like, we need more time slots, quick. And it was fantastic. And it was a lot of people that we wouldn't traditionally see getting involved or taking advantage of these resources. So just the fact, I think, that we kind of positioned it as like, look, you don't have to be in crisis, nothing has to be wrong, like just get a tune-up. I think a lot of people stopped and were like, oh yeah, why wouldn't I do that?
Exactly. Check up from the neck up, right?
Yeah, perfect. I'm going to steal that. I love that.
Tagline. Well, okay. And I want to hear about your journey too, because you started out as a litigator and you eventually, now went on to develop Latham's, first global wellness initiative. I'm curious what led to that transition for yourself.
Yeah, well, so I started out as a litigator, and then, about 5 years in, I got really interested in the management of the firm. Latham is great in that, it affords associates the opportunity to get involved in management and firm committees and all that. And, as much fun as I was having being a lawyer, I kind of liked my committee work and building programs and all of that. So, I ended up transitioning to the management side and did internal communications. And I ended up kind of acting like an internal consultant almost on communications issues for all different constituencies within the firm, right? The pro bono committee and diversity and associates committee and whatnot. And, I mentioned our benefits group came to me, asking for help with this white paper to propose a well-being program. And once it got off the ground, I helped them come up with the branding and launching and really found out it was something I was very interested in. And, I think the folks who even came to me early on to ask for my help were savvy enough to know that half of it is building the program and half of it is communicating it, right? It's not Field of Dreams where if you build it, it will come and everybody will suddenly take advantage of all these engagement opportunities. We spend a lot of time, talking to people, presenting, getting out there. And, if you tell someone the message 20 times, maybe that 20th time is when they're actually in need of it or actually ready to hear it or actually, taking a break from whatever they're doing and can digest it. And I think that's so important for well-being. So it's funny, I've taken kind of a circuitous path here, but I think all my experiences have kind of helped me, bring skills to the table that are essential to working with a well-being program.
Absolutely. I think you're planting some really powerful seeds that may take some time to come to fruition sometimes, but they absolutely will grow into something. And that happens all the time where I'll have someone say, I heard you speak 5 years ago. I've kept in touch. Now I'm ready to start therapy, So
exactly.
You know when someone's going to come back around. Yeah. Let's talk about with the pandemic, that's obviously shifted mental health, not just in the legal community, but in every workspace. I'm curious how, you've seen well-being shift during the pandemic, in the legal community specifically, and how you've seen Live Well Latham services adjust to meet those needs.
Yeah, like I said, our model is to kind of work with a small group of, really top-notch providers and go deep with them. And I think because we had relationships established, on that level, when the pandemic happened and, the world changed overnight, we were able to really kind of use that foundation to be very nimble and, create new resources. we had just worked with Johns Hopkins to open our first on-site clinic, and suddenly Johns Hopkins was at the epicenter of tracking COVID around the world, right? So they became a really important advisor to the firm on the pandemic, both to our management and some of our plans and policies, and also even just on the front lines. We did a number of presentations with the head of their infectious disease unit, right? To bring to our folks, like, here are people, who can clarify, some of the, information out there on vaccines, on all this stuff, which was super helpful. A lot of the things that I think we had been really focused on doing in person obviously went remote. We did a lot of webinars and programs over Zoom, which in a way was really good because it gave us far greater reach and let us bring in a greater diversity of presenters and programs and resources in unique ways. I mean, we started a webinar series, everything from stress management to, working from home and managing kids, and, to any number of issues. There was a psychologist that we work with a lot, Dr. Judith Suker of Weill Cornell, New York Presbyterian. And we've done a number of programs with her. And when the pandemic happened, maybe, a month in, I called her up and I said, all right, Dr. Suker, this is going to sound a little crazy, but what do you think of doing a podcast with me? And, luckily she didn't say, have you ever done a podcast? Because the answer would have been no. But, we did. I said, everybody, is really focused on mental health, but it's overwhelming, all the stuff you see in the news, and it's heavy. Like, I want to do something that's light and fun, but addresses serious issues, but in maybe a little more lighthearted ways. And, we ended up doing every other week a podcast for, months and months and months in the pandemic, where we would talk about, everything from very serious issues to, why, you remember at the beginning, there were all those videos of the Italians, like, singing from their balcony during lockdown, right? And like, what is it about a community that makes us feel better? So, it gave us the opportunity to really try some unique things. Even my gym went remote and created, some live remote classes that we eventually brought them into Latham, and we created this Latham homebody class, where eventually we were running like 20 fitness classes a week that were live at all different times all over the world. So, you'd log on and you'd be working out with people from like Tokyo and Paris and San Francisco. And, it was all live, and, you do a name game at the beginning and really get to know your colleagues in a very different way, while also kind of helping your sanity a little bit when we were locked down. So, in this funny sort of way, the pandemic, I think, gave us a way to utilize our platform and our contacts and our partners, not law firm partners, but our partners in the well-being community, in some very creative ways that I think the feedback we got is folks found it very helpful and really that it spoke to the times.
Yeah. Oh, I love that ability to shift, that flexibility. And we'll be sure and include that podcast link in our show notes too.
Oh, so it was a firm only podcast. Yeah.
Invite only. Sorry, friends.
There we go. Yeah. It was, to be honest, it was kind of just a fancy conference call, but it's a podcast format. And funny enough, folks would IM me, would instant message me during. So we would like incorporate, comments from callers. So,
I love it. Live show. Yeah. There you go. Well, I want to talk too about people who are interested in entering the legal community. There may be listeners here today who are curious about, entering the legal space. My specialty is working with millennials and Gen Z who are, entering the workforce and new in the workforce. I'm curious, sometimes you hear people be a little bit skeptical about entering the legal space, hearing that it's a stressful environment. I'm curious what you would say to those folks who are interested, but maybe a little cautious and leery.
Yeah, that's a good question. My refrain is always to, focus on self-care, right? And to remember that. And it's interesting because, on occasion I talk to law students, and what I always say is, we're having this great dialogue and you guys are asking terrific questions and are obviously very focused on it. But 2 years from now, some percentage of you are going to be at my firm, and I'm going to be waving my arms and shooting off, fireworks to get your attention, to remind you how important this all is. And, through no fault of your own, like when you enter the legal profession, you get a little swept away, right? You're still figuring out how to be a good lawyer, and you're focused on your clients, you're in the deal and the case, and you kind of forget all those things that we knew not that long ago about how important it is to take care of ourselves. So, I mean, that's what I would say to people who are a little hesitant, like great, use that as a way to remember, what you're hesitant about. And, self-care doesn't necessarily mean you have to get to the gym for an hour and a half every day, right? There are different ways to, even when you're a super, super busy attorney, to incorporate well-being into your schedule and to remember that and to be creative about it. And, if I can go out for a run, I'm thrilled. If I can, read my book, I'm thrilled. If I can just read a chapter of my trashy romance novel for like 7 minutes before I get on a conference call, that works. And sometimes I have this right here, my little it's like an aromatherapy sniff.
Oh, yes.
Even like the 5 seconds it takes to just unscrew this, take a sniff, and like remind myself, like, yeah, just do something you enjoy really quickly. There are a lot of ways to incorporate self-care into your routine. And, again, I think we all know that, but for some reason, when you go to law school and you graduate and you start working, you forget all that. So I think that's what I would say. Yeah.
And that it's safe to do that, right? Because I think sometimes people worry, like, are there repercussions if I make time for self-care, and the fact that you're openly advocating, like, we want you to integrate your wellness and make self-care a priority. I think that really, in a way, gives people the permission that, okay, it's safe to do this.
Absolutely.
Let's talk about what you love about your job. I mean, I hear the passion exuding from you as you talk about it. Tell me what you love about this work that you're doing, and also what gives you heart when it does get hard.
Yeah, I mean, I love my job. I have the best job in the world. And, I literally get paid to help people. I mean, there's nothing better than the feeling that you have helped someone. And, it's funny, our motto, on the Latham WellBeing team is you get people one person at a time, right? It's not about bringing some famous speaker in and having 1,000 people attend a presentation, right? It's about, offering a lot of resources so that when people need them and they're ready for them, they're there. And that, again, that happens one person at a time, whether it's the person who finally, took that physical therapy prescription and, went to our clinic, or someone who did a session with one of our Care Connect counselors, or came to a resilience presentation and left with like one takeaway that they're incorporating into their day, or whatever, to somebody who, has cancer, or a family member with cancer and is suddenly, we've had people who, we hook them up with resources that literally change the course of their treatment. And, there are big wins and little wins, and they're all important. And, I think that's I think you said something like, what kind of keeps you going? It's all those wins. And again, sometimes they're huge, sometimes they're not, sometimes they're unexpected. And, when I talk at conferences, often one of the topics that people like to ask about is, well, how do you measure all this? And you can't, right? There's no formula of, well, we did this and this was a good outcome and therefore it justifies the cost. We do it because it's the right thing to do. And, I'm lucky to be at a firm where management recognizes that. And, I'll never forget early on when we, one of the resilience programs that we did with Dr. Ahmed Sood from Mayo Clinic, who is like brilliant and one of the nicest people you could ever meet. We took his Mayo Clinic resilience program and he customized it for us. And we did it live in all of our US offices a number of years ago. And there was an associate who came up to us afterwards and said, just so you know, and it was like I think at that point it was a 10-week program. It was like, there were a lot of different aspects to it. She said, just so you know, this program saved my marriage. Yeah, I still get chills when I say that, so yes. that wasn't, in my, to-do list of like what I thought would come out of this program. That wasn't something I was expecting, but that was phenomenal, And when things get really rough, I remember that, and there are big wins and little wins, but to the extent that we can even just make it a little easier for people, I think that's it's very satisfying.
Oh, completely. And there's a powerful message I hear in that too. Every person matters. It's not about a lump sum of data. Every single person matters, and not just attorneys, right? Like the entire legal community that's a part of Latham. So wow, that gives me chills too. Tell us what's coming down the pike. I can tell you've always got things you're thinking about coming up next. So what projects are you working on at Latham right now that you're excited about?
Yeah, well, we're right in the middle of rolling out a mental health training for supervisors. We're almost done going through all the practice groups with the partners in council. We're going to create a senior associate version soon that's really about how to have mental health conversations with people on your team. Right? Like, how do you bring it up? What do you say? What do you not say? What if somebody actually responds and say they're struggling? Like, how do you respond? What are the confidentiality issues? Things like that, again, we've been rolling this out to partners in council for the past several months, and folks are just so grateful because it's out there. I mean, we're still in the middle of a pandemic. Like, people are struggling, and people want to talk, and people want to be supportive of each other. And, often we just don't have the words or know how to even broach this. So I think folks have been very, very grateful that we're just giving them some direction to do things that just as good people they want to do, but aren't sure quite how to do that. So we're going to continue that and expand that. But the thing that I'm really, really excited about is we are in the midst of creating a mental health allies program. This is going to be for everyone, attorney staff everywhere around the world, where, folks who want to increase their literacy about mental health, and then also kind of be there as a resource for others. I mean, obviously we're not going to train them to be counselors or coaches, right? It's not anything like that, but just to even have that conversation and, the like, how are you doing? No, really, how are you doing? And then know what to do with that response, right? Be able to kind of signpost and point people towards resources. I think there are a lot of people who are interested in this. And, if we can create this cadre of allies out there who could just be there for each other and point them in the direction of resources that are going to help them, I mean, that's going to be the game changer. So we're trying to put it together now in the next couple of months. So I'm super excited about that one.
I cannot wait to hear how that goes. I think that's going to be transformational to know, yes, I can talk to you. We can have this collaborative relationship, because we know people stay at companies. People want to come to companies where they feel like they are seen as human beings, right? And not just as an employee. And so the fact that you are building these relationships with people truly showing that they care about other people, that's pretty profound. That's going to be transformative. Oh, very exciting.
Yeah, it's exciting.
That's great, Mark. Well, I want to wrap up our call in just a moment here, but I think people need to hear, especially with the incredible work you're doing, what's something you do on a regular basis for yourself to foster your own well-being?
Good question. I feel like I should have some really erudite answer, but in a very practical sense, it's just finding time for self-care, whether it's the silly little Toon Blast game that I play on my phone that if I ever just need to put a smile on my face, I just take 5 minutes and play that. Or, I've got kind of my go-to songs on my phone that, never cease to, put a smile on my face. My writing makes me happy, my music, my trashy novels, all of that, just finding the time for myself. And again, some days it's, a significant amount of time, and some days it's just a little time, but I kind of have my mental list of, here are things that make me happy, here are things that make me smile, here are the quick ones, here are the other ones. And I always try and find time for at least one of them.
Yes. And I think that's an important reminder, right? That it can be in little moments, right? It doesn't have to be something you take an hour even out of your day, but yeah, putting on a great playlist. I'm 30 years old and I will swear by my Kenny G Pandora playlist.
There you go. Yeah.
Kenny G in business. Yeah. So,
Uh,
whatever it is that brings you a smile, even if it's for a few moments or if it's in the background, it's something great
yeah.
to add.
Well, and I'll tell you too, the best investment that I've probably ever made in my life was at Bed Bath and Beyond. I waited until I had one of those 20% off coupons, and I got a foot and calf massager. And I also bought one of those chair top massagers that you just put on a chair and you lean back and touch your neck and back. So I have this whole little setup on a chair of like, I sit down and I can massage my neck and back and feet and calves at the same time. And it's all, I mean, it wasn't like super expensive. I waited for the 20% off coupon. And, I've got this like little massage station in my living room that, again, was a great investment when I just want to chill. Yeah.
So they're good, actually. Sometimes you wonder with those things, are they actually legit? But it sounds like it's actually good at what it does.
Oh my gosh, I love it. I'm literally on my third one. I use it so much over the years that I think I've worn them out. But it's a good thing, right?
We're gonna see Bed Bath and Beyond stock spike the next day.
There we go.
Oh, well, okay. One final question I have for you, and it's kind of a biggie. I asked all of my guests this. What do you hope your legacy is going to be?
Oh, that is a biggie.
No pressure.
Honestly, if there are just people out there who can look back and be like, wow, this resource really helped me. Whether it's this nugget I got from a program or this doctor I connected with or this, counselor that, helped me. I mean, that's a fantastic legacy, right? That you've affected somebody's life, even if it's just bringing them a resource or connecting them to something that was helpful.
I agree. Well, you're clearly doing that already. And Mark, tell everybody where they can connect with you or learn more about the work Latham's doing. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I'm always happy to talk to people who are, interested in this, and feel free to shoot me an email, mark.goldberg@lw.com, and I'm always happy to chat.
Mark, it has been such a pleasure having you on the show today. I've learned so much. I know our listeners are going to learn so much, and as somebody who cares passionately about mental health, especially in the legal community, you are one of the leading forces that are doing this incredible work. So it's an honor to get to spend some time with you today, and keep doing what you're doing. Don't stop.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I'm fortunate to work for a great firm and a great team that really cares about this. And, there are a lot of hardworking people at Latham making all this happen. So thanks for giving me the opportunity to share it with you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Take good care, Mark.
Take care. Bye-bye.